Welcome to another episode of CrossTalk. My name is Kevin Tocci and I will be your host for this episode. What's interesting is we're bringing you a piece of information for the folks who live in the town of Hanson, because due to redistricting, that there is going to be a new state rep in town come January of next year. And joining us is an individual who is currently the incumbent for the 5th Plymouth District state rep seat. He is Dave DeCoste, and if Dave is successful, he will be your state representative moving forward. And I believe it is Precinct 1?
Precinct 1. Yep.
How are you, Dave?
I'm doing well, Kevin. It's always good to talk to you.
So what's interesting is that Dave and I have had an ongoing dialogue for years since Dave took office as a state representative. As some of you may know, I also host a radio show. So I built up a fantastic rapport and some depth as to some of the things that Dave has done. And I thought that it was valuable to have the candidates who are up for election come November 8th. And it's, as of the taping of this conversation, is less than a month away. Dave, for folks who don't know who you are in the Hanson area, Precinct 1, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I guess to begin with, I'm 59 years old. I am a product of Norwell Public Schools. We moved there from Quincy, my family, when I was 3, so 1966. I'm a K through 12 graduate. My dad was a carpenter. My mom stayed home and managed the household. I grew up and proceeded off to Northeastern University. And in amongst the hassle back and forth and working, I was also in the service, and I'm a retired Army officer. So Northeastern graduate, Boston University graduate, still teaching at BU. As I said, grew up in a family, my dad was a builder. So worked a lot of local work up in Norwell, Hanover, Weymouth area, Rockland sometimes. And actually, I never told you this. I helped build the Pembroke Police Station. During the blizzard of '78, I was out there with a crew of kids, Norwell kids, digging it out so the framers could get back to work framing. But so a local guy, and I've done well, or at least okay, I guess.
It's also worth noting that you didn't happen into becoming a state representative without any municipal experience, as you served on the Norwell Board of Selectmen, correct?
I left off a bit, but yeah, a Norwell Selectman for 3 years, and also served on the Permanent Building Maintenance Committee, which actually was quite interesting. And that particular committee, like many others in the state, delves into a little bit about all of the projects that the town is working in, and the charge is that they're being done correctly and efficiently, and what we want to hear is on time and below budget in the perfect world.
What would you say are some of the issues or some of the things that you've been able to accomplish during your time as state representative since being elected?
Well, it's funny, when we ask that, we talk about a lot of things in terms of, advocating for the police and for taxpayers and veterans, but I had just the other day a discussion with an advocate for foster care. And as we've spoken before, we have passed a number of bills to improve the foster care system. It was a few years ago in the news because of the terrible situations, a number of situations, but in this area, the terrible situations regarding baby Bella and all of the horrible things that she had gone through. And we have worked in our office with a number of people locally who were foster parents. One in particular was a lady, Barbara Papil. And as you know, I keep office hours every Friday. And Barbara, who's from Rockland, came in and talked to me about her particular experiences and some of the shortcomings that she had while she was a foster mother. In her case, she specialized in basically infants who had medical issues and had some challenges. And she's just an angel. And the foster system did not treat foster parents in general and those specific type of parents who took up those children in particular very well. It was not deliberate, but the management was just inept to be charitable. So when you ask what we've done and what we're working on in the past, there are a lot of things I could point to, but one of the things that we don't talk about quite often, but that we've made major improvements on is the foster care system within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I'm very proud of that. And I should add, by the way, that that type of legislation is something that brings Democrats and Republicans and folks right along the political spectrum from right to left together. And we are generally unified. We've had Republican leadership, Democrat leadership working with us, and this type of thing where the Baker administration has been right on board trying to make improvements. So if I had to pick out, one thing that I think everybody could agree has been really positive and something we've accomplished over since 2015 when I first been sworn in, I'd point to that.
Let's talk a little bit about you're working amongst other legislators on the South Shore. I know folks like to look at what goes on nationally, what down in D.C. with Congress, and you see a lot of fighting and a lot of D versus R. I don't think people realize the amount of work that has been done by this state legislation, especially when it comes to getting things done, getting local aid for communities, distribution of American Rescue Plan Act funding, ARPA. Talk to me about being able to work with other folks, regardless of their political affiliation.
Well, we're sitting here in Hanson, and I'm sitting aside, but matter of fact, we're sitting right where the district, the precincts 1 and 2, so I see DeCoste signs and Josh Cutler signs. So let's talk a little bit about, I work with Josh Cutler very closely, for instance, on North River issues, and also we have teamed up, and to your point, they get along wonderfully. I can't imagine, us having any problems because the things we need to do locally, we're all on the same page about, whether it has to do with water or schooling, the North River issues, housing, lots of stuff. So let's take, first of all, the North River. We've had some issues down there in terms of supporting, the North River Commission. We're all on board and we've gotten funding. It's kind of been a little bit more disjointed, but for 3 years now, we've had funding of the North River Commission, first through some intervention I did with the administration, and then subsequently funding through Senator Patrick O'Connor and most recently Pat Carney on the, to get the commission funded. Our hope is next year with the budget, it'll be a line item and that won't be an issue. Senator O'Connor and both Senator Moran are totally on board with that, as is the whole delegation here. So and Senator Brady, I left him out, and all working together to get that funded. Josh Cutler and I have kind of adopted as a cause the South Shore VOTEC. And this year, as we've spoken about on some other programs, we have had a major, really a major victory, because for the first time, they are evaluating the South Shore VOTEC for basically to be rebuilt. And they may, my guess is when the final report comes, which incidentally is almost a guarantee of full funding to get it, whatever they recommend done. Knock on wood, and if there were wood here, I'd knock on it. But we're looking at getting an evaluation of what that VOTEC needs to make it a more effective school. And we're going to get a report done and then advocate strongly, probably for a significant, if not a complete, rebuild of the school to expand the capabilities. And Dr. Hickey, we work there, we see him on a regular basis, and he's not shy about advocating for exactly what he thinks he needs. And so the work we do with locally there is probably, and I work with Josh quite a bit on that, and on river issues. So let's talk a little bit about some of the local water and traffic issues specific to the district. And water, as you know, is a huge issue, and we work very closely with Rep. Moschino. Joan Moschino and I work very closely on river issues. We border up in the northwest corner of the district in Rockland, Hingham district. There were some issues there regarding a 40B, and we have done our part in making sure that a specific 40B called Shingle Mill, which is just too close to reservoirs affecting Norwell, certainly Rockland, and absolutely Hingham. We were able to, I think, put an end to any thought about developing on that specific piece of property in Rockland. And Rep. Moschino and I have worked very closely on that. Going over to the east with Rep. Carney, I'll probably be seeing him in 2 days, but he and I work very closely on river issues as well. And as a group, we all work on traffic issues, so when they have crazy ideas, like for instance, putting tolls on Route 3, we are all on the same page in terms of aggressively advocating against any plans from wherever it might be, wherever in the bureaucracy it comes, or elsewhere, in terms of stopping some things like that.
I want to digress back to something you said in regards to education in South Shore Votech. First off, Dr. Tom Hickey, I believe that he is a Hanson resident. Now, I don't know what precinct he's in, but he is a Hanson resident.
Good point. I may need a sign location. I'm glad you pointed that out. There you go.
Absolutely. But that's a school that's 50 plus years old. I think that they just celebrated, and that they've done a lot of work. I know that there's a new part and an old part. How important are the trades when it comes to education and having a sufficient workforce? How important is our trade schools in Massachusetts?
Incredibly important. And again, that's why, and again, all of the reps specifically are working with that. The largest enrollment comes from Abington and Rockland. Of course, Allison Sullivan, Rep. Sullivan out in Abington, works closely as well. But again, this has been because it is in Hanover, and you hear on a regular basis the average. I don't have the numbers, but the average electrician is in his late 50s. The average plumber is in his or her late 50s. All right, we really have we have to flesh out the farm team, or we are going to be in a particular position where the number of people, the tradespeople, to repair and maintain our facilities, to build our facilities, are down. And that's something, by the way, 100% on board. Private sector, unions, government, everybody is concerned about the number of folks we're producing in terms of trades. And I'll give you a very quick example. There's a metalcraft and machinist operation. The family who owns it lives in Hanover. I believe the facility itself is in Stoughton. And in one of the evening exhibitions that they had, in terms of the evening out, in other words, the open house, I guess the word I'm searching for, he mentioned to me that if South Shore Votech were able to double the output of machinists, he could hire every one of them. And by the way, those kids are just so talented. If you go to see what they're producing things for the military, for the civilian aircraft industry, for NASA. There are pieces of equipment machined by graduates of South Shore Votech that are going into space. It really, really is impressive. And that goes through all the programs. We recently, speaking about some joint legislative effort, we recently got from the administration about $2.5 million to improve the local culinary and carpentry programs over to Votech. And so you're going to see a lot of, you're going to see an expansion of that program. And again, we're trying to bring in the private sector, the labor unions, and Dr. Hickey has plans to be able to, I get excited about this, so I'm glad you asked about it. He's going to be working night programs, summer programs, programs on weekends, so potentially, not real soon, but maybe the young kids who are in 5th and 6th grade right now, when they become of age, they might be in a position where they would be going to, say, Norwell High School or Hanson High School here, but also have the opportunity to go to a summer program that specializes in carpentry or plumbing or a vocational program aligned towards the culinary program. And I didn't mention the local restaurants. They too are they're in a mode where they really need personnel. And have you ever been to the Brass Lantern? You've been over there, right? Yeah. I go there normally for a black coffee, but I was grabbed the other day, and they took me through the program. The kids were making pizza, and it was just really terrific.
It's worth noting that we are cruising into the time of year that they actually start taking orders for pie for Thanksgiving. It is that time of year.
There you go, the natural salesman. There you go. We will have to note that on the next Facebook post we do. That's right. I forgot about that. Good point.
So for the folks who, again, this program geared towards the folks who live in Whitman and Hanson, but primarily Hanson, have you had a chance to cross paths and door knock and talk with folks in Hanson? What are they saying to you?
A lot of door knocking, and I should mention that right down the street here on Gorham Drive, my sister and my brother-in-law raised a family down here. So I've got, if any of the, I can say their names, I guess, if they people, Zach Conant and Sarah Conant, they recent graduates of, the school system here, and I guess my nephew went to Xaverian, but certainly local sports and everything. So I knew folks here to begin with, and a lot of folks from the class of '81 in Norwell, and '82 and '83, and so lots of Norwell, Hanson folks kind of mixed. So I know a lot of folks down here to begin with. Now you ask what they're saying. That gets kind of into some serious issues. Obviously, the economy and inflation is a big issue. People are worried about the ability of to send kids to school. The slow economy in terms of making payments. We've gone since you and I sat down and talked, we have gone, and it wasn't that long ago, we've gone to 2.5%, 3% interest rates, right up to pushing 7% now. Things are really slowing down in terms of the economic growth. So the governor's one of the governor's real focuses in the administration has been the way he phrases it is to make Massachusetts a nice place to go to school in, to raise a family in, to retire into, and to run a business. And that really is the focus of what we need to do. We need to focus on making the Commonwealth a good, safe, affordable place to live and to raise a family.
Is Massachusetts ready for a possible financial downturn?
Well, we've got a good question. We have a substantial rainy day fund. I think we have a lot of good ideas in terms of helping out the Commonwealth. I have always been personally a big advocate of tax relief for senior citizens, particularly property tax relief. And then we have been focused lately on, with a lot of my Democratic colleagues, there are about 7 or 8 bills that basically would increase the senior circuit breaker. The governor wanted to double it, excuse me. I signed on with a freshman Democrat from Attleboro to bring it up to $5,000 or $6,000, depending. I'm signed on to every one of them. So we're working on that, and I think that's a good idea. The downturn, rainy day fund, there are some bad ideas in my estimation in terms of raising taxes, whether it be the gas tax, whether it be cutting aid to local communities. That's a significant question, and I have taken a position that I will never support any type of tax increase. I don't think there's need for taxes. I think we have a spending problem, and so going forward, I am all for adjusting our retirement and estate taxes, or the death tax, however you want to call it, which is slated, I am hopeful, with this new economic development bill to be modified in some way, some form or fashion. And I think that would also encourage people to stay after they've retired.
Anything that we haven't talked about, but you feel is important to share that message with the viewers?
Let's talk a bit about police and policing, because over the last few years, and police specifically, but public safety more broadly, There are threats to qualified immunity. And to your viewers that may not be familiar with it, but what qualified immunity says is that, police officers are liable not for things they do illegally. They can always be sued and so forth for that. But in the course of a normal duty day for a police officer or a firefighter, they are governed by qualified immunity. There is a move afoot to reduce or diminish the level of protection for qualified immunity. I am absolutely opposed to that. There are some candidates running in the Commonwealth and locally who are affiliated with those candidates who are talking about reimagining policing, which really is a euphemism for watering down the ability of police to do their job, to basically limit the amount of prosecutions. We have one county north of us. You can walk into a Walgreens and take anything you want and not have to worry about being prosecuted. And there are people running now who advocate those type of laws. I am 100% against them. And as I've told the local police and the public safety community in general, we're 300% behind them. And that can't be said enough, because what I'm concerned about is the diminished level of recruiting, and you see that right, whether it be corrections officers, members of the state police, members of the local police. I think that the questions regarding support and potentially diminishing the career of law enforcement is having an impact on recruiting, and that's not a good thing. But we didn't touch on that, and it's always worth saying, because I have in the legislature made it a point to staunchly and vocally support our law enforcement community.
Folks want to find out more about your campaign. How can they do that?
Citizensfordecoste.com, or you can go on to Facebook, where we have citizensfordecoste.com. And if you want to go on, you can go on WATD, and I have, going back to 2014, all sorts of talk with Kevin Tocci. So, and we're going to post them right on. We're on. I was just off air. We were talking. We're going to post them right to Citizens for DeCoste. Catch up.
Well,
so and thank you, by the way. This is. I am always grateful for coming on. You've always been fair. To this day, I have no idea where you stand politically. You are just you're the consummate even-handed guy. So,
right down the middle. That's
down the middle.
Right where I should be as someone who is a broadcaster. At least I believe. Everybody's different. I know I'm not here to speak for everybody else, just for myself. I feel that being down the middle, right down the middle, gives everybody a fair opportunity to talk about and discuss where they stand on the issues, and do it without any fear of retribution or malice because they feel or stand. Today's society, it's become, if you express yourself on a social media platform, you could in fact face repercussion of many others in the thread. How dare you? How do you look at things that way? Regardless of what the issue is. And it's, I would rather be the person who's in the middle that can talk about both sides of an issue and be able to and do so with whomever I'm talking with, feel comfortable. And hopefully, if I've done anything, I make everybody that I speak with feel comfortable, because that's what I want. Is I want to have a good conversation, and I want at the end of the day for you, the person who sits in the guest chair, to feel comfortable.
We do. Nobody goes into a Kevin Tocci interview worrying about being ambushed, and I think that's why you get so many people who come in and talk freely.
We should do is if in fact you are reelected to yet another term,
from your lips to God's ears. There you go.
We will have to create another CrossTalk, a 5th Plymouth District CrossTalk. We'll have to do that.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us here. We're actually at Town Hall in Hanson. That's the site of this conversation today. We thank you for tuning in, and we're looking forward to bringing you more conversations in just a bit. Until next time, have a great day.